Hey everyone, it is Anna J. Wallner with the Bookish Nook here on the Author Library in partnership with Creative Edge Publicity. And I am ecstatic to have with me the Ren P. Chapecco. Ren, would you like to introduce yourself for those of you who don't know who you are? I mean, come on, guys.
Well, hi, my name is Vin Chapecco and I live in the Philippines. I am also the author of books such as The Bone Witch, The Girl from the Well, The Never Tilting World, Wicked as You Wish, and my upcoming book, which is my adult debut in 2023, is called Silver Under Nightfall.
Oh, awesome. Yes, I am absolutely loving. I'm over halfway through this book, and I am itching to get into the next installment, the second book in the series. And as you said, the Bone Witch trilogy, which a lot of people are very familiar with, The Girl from the Well. You have 3 anthologies. And your newest book, Wicked as You Wish, will be releasing on October 5th. So right around the corner. Whew. I mean, that is crazy. And then you have an adult. So you're transitioning into the world of literary fiction for adults next year.
It's more like there's not much information about it out yet, but it's a sci-fi fantasy. It will involve vampires. It was
Sorry.
pitched as like a it was pitched as a gothic vampire fantasy that, for a brief description, it's basically a vampire hunter who's trying to figure out a series of murders that seem to be caused by mutated vampires throughout his kingdom, and in the process he meets with a vampire couple who sort of looking for the same things he does. Like, they don't know where these mutations are coming from, so they've pledged to work together, but along the way they get into a complicated relationship. So
Ooh. Oh, I'm already sold. I'm already sold. If anybody has, you're kind of you've become an instant buy author for me. So I will be picking up Wicked as You Wish. It's already on my wish list. And as soon as it comes out, then that will be headed my way. And so
thank you.
I will definitely. Oh, I'm definitely a fan, and I love as we were talking about earlier. I love T's story, and there's a lot of high fantasy here, and but also some truth and some lore. Was there anything in the book that means something personal to you, some piece of yourself or your life that you incorporated into the Bone Witch trilogy? And I'm just bringing that up because I'm currently right in the middle of it.
Well, actually, the whole concept of the Bone Witch happened while I was pregnant. And this was shortly after I went into labor and gave birth, and it was a difficult pregnancy. And my hormones were all out of whack, like very much so, especially when I was going through like sleepless nights and everything that comes with raising a newborn baby.
Right.
And during one of those sleepless nights, I started thinking back about my own family. Particularly, I was supposed to have like an older brother, but my parents had a miscarriage, and so this was supposed to be their first child before I was born. So I didn't actually know much details about it growing up, mostly because it's not really something that Asian families talk about. We tend to be, very uh, very private about things like that. But when I was having my own child, I started thinking about that brother I never met. So I guess the Bone Witch was a way of trying to figure out a potential relationship that I could have had with my brother, which was the whole point, the whole purpose between like Fox and Thea. Oh, and before anything else, like it's absolutely my fault because I didn't specify it very early into the book.
Yeah.
But her name is actually Thea.
Thea.
It's not T. And yeah, I like so many people email me and talk to me and very say, "Oh, I love T. I love T." Like, yeah, I love T too, but her name's Thea. And I didn't say it during the first few chapters, which was my mistake. And the pronunciation doesn't really happen until, as you said, like a little over halfway through the book, I think. So there's where
Okay.
that issue of pronunciation comes up. And I just wanted to do that because it's a very Filipino thing. Like Filipinos will come up with these really fancy names and then mispronounce them. So that was sort of the thing I was trying to go for, to make it's one of those little things that make it what I feel is a very Filipino book. Like we'd have we'd have names like Jenny, but it's spelled with an H. So it's just a
Ah,
way to sort of make things fancier for us, make things look like unique for us. Jenny would be spelled like Jhenny, for example. Or
oh,
you'd
okay.
combine like you'd combine like the father and the mother's names together, and then that's the name. That's why we have names like Mary June, Mary being the mother's name, and then June, like Jun, being the father's name. So
Oh, okay.
you know, we like fancy names.
I like that. Yeah, and I'm Ren Chepeco. And but I saw on a TikTok video where you put your entire name on there, and it's I'm not gonna try and pronounce it. It looks beautiful, and I'm sure it sounds equally as eloquent. But yeah, it's could you pronounce it for me? I'm just curious.
Like my full name, it's Rindenislao Chupeco. So
Oh, that is so,
we 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 also like second names, and it's gotten to the point like it's more popular nowadays to sort of hyphenate the name,
yeah.
so it gets longer and longer as
Anna
as we
J.
grow up.
Wallner. Anna J. Wallner is just so boring in comparison. Like I want to change it to something really cool now. But it's very okay. Taya. So I want Taya is very she's fearless and very headstrong, and she's I love her character. And you write very strong female, yeah, and this is a young adult fantasy series. And all of your young women in these stories are very vibrant and brave and self-assured. And I really love that about your books and your protagonists, because that's the kind of young woman that I want my little girl to grow up to be and read
Thank
those
you.
kind of books that inspire her to be brave and be bold and to take, educated risks, but to not be afraid to go for what she wants. And I see that. I mean, is that something that you made sure to incorporate?
Oh, I did. Like all the most of my protagonists are basically just, you know, taken from my own experiences in a way, because the Philippines, unfortunately, is a very traditional, conservative, very, very religious country. Like, we don't even have divorce laws here.
Oh,
Like, Vatican has divorce laws. Like, Rome and Italy has divorce laws. We don't have divorce laws. And, um, like LGBTQ isn't, there are no laws here for to support LGBTQ.
right.
Even now, we we are also against, like, we have no laws protecting women from, like with reproductive health, or abortion, definitely, especially abortion, because that's a really big issue here. And not even birth control. Like,
Oh,
so many people here have been actively suppressing the rights of women to at least use birth control, because they say they're abortifacients. And when you grow up and you're a very liberal, very progressive,
open, right.
queer, um, pansexual atheist, you start realizing that the world around you does not conform to your how you want life to be.
Right.
And and in my own time, I have rebelled and pushed back when asked things that I don't want to do. Yeah. And
Yep.
I guess this is my way of, showcasing other protagonists that push back against the system that doesn't seem to value them, and doing it in such a way to call out the fact that, hey, we're important too. Hey, we have a voice and we can use it. And when we use it, you guys are doomed.
Yes. No, absolutely. And do you include LGBTQ representation and diversity in some of the other in some of the other books that you're writing and getting ready to write? Is that something that's
Well, and
important to you?
absolutely. So, like in the Bone Witch itself, like in the first book, it's not going to be too apparent, but one of the
Right.
characters there will come out as being trans, and
Oh, I
her journey is going to be such an integral part to the story, and also sort of reflects Thea's growing views about how the kingdom should be run, how poorly it treats women despite being a sort of matriarchal system.
mm-hmm.
And in another book as well, there's this book called The Never Tilting World, which I also wrote, and it's basically about this world which is torn between night and day. So the world has basically stopped moving, and so one half of the world is in a perpetual darkness, the other half is in scorching day. And the reasons for that is unclear. Like there were goddesses that ruled the world, but something happened with those goddesses. They broke something, and they caused this catastrophe as a result. And one of the goddesses is actually a very, very meek at first glance, very meek goddess who has the biggest crush on her bodyguard, and the
Oh,
bodyguard in turn also has the biggest crush on her ward. And part of their character development is learning how to navigate that goddess slash bodyguard relationship, and trying to find something solid, and trying to find something that you know makes them better people as a result.
that I love that you incorporate some of these kind of layers that if you're not quite paying attention and you just read straight through the book, if you're not really, adept to kind of figuring out some of these underlying tones that you have there, some of these underlying themes that mean a lot more than just a story, that there's a lot more there under the words in the meaning of them that you specifically made sure to incorporate. Thank you for sharing that, because now I think, I mean, I know that I'm going to be reading more carefully and closely for the rest of this book and the rest of the series to try and pick up on that. And I did suspect some things. I'm not giving away spoilers here, but I did suspect some things, and it's good to know that in the second and the third book that I will possibly be proven right. I'm excited. So,
I mean, that's the purpose that I'm hoping to incorporate in my books. Like you don't really think much about it; you just read through it and then accept it as something that happens in the world without really jolting you outside of it. And then by the
right.
time you get to the last page, that's when you go, "Oh, so that's what happened." So that's my purpose, and I'm
I
glad that you think the same way.
Yes, no, I love books like that. I love whenever there's a message that you don't necessarily get outright, but if you read it with care and you really know, some of the subtleties that are underneath what, let me just say, maybe some of the things that are not being said on purpose, or some of the things that have an alternative meaning that you're like, this sounds really familiar to something that I've seen or heard of in real life. Wow, that makes me think of it in a different way, even though it's fantasy, technically, it draws on some real topics and issues that exist in the world today.
Exactly, exactly.
So I love seeing that. Wicked as You Wish is just around the corner for you, and it covers everything from all different fairy tales to nursery rhymes to the Kingdom of Oz. I mean, that's quite an undertaking. Is this going to be a series or is this a standalone?
It's actually a trilogy. Like the second book will be out very early. The second book
Okay.
will be out early May of next year. May 1, I think. Yeah. So there, I can't release the book cover for that yet, but I'm
Right.
very excited because I've already seen the final copy and I really love it. Mainly because it's my first book that actually has a Filipino teenager on the cover. So
I saw
it's
that.
she's yes, yes. I did show the book cover of the first one that's coming out, and it's gonna be the same theme throughout the rest of the sequels. So it's still gonna be like my Filipino teenager Tala on the cover for the next two books. So it's gonna be a trilogy.
Oh, awesome. Okay, my TBR is growing already. uh, what, overall, what is it that you would love for readers, especially young adult readers, young girls, to take away from the stories that you tell?
I think that especially nowadays, it feels overwhelming. Like you feel helpless, you feel like you don't really have control of anything because of how everything moves nowadays, how our lives has been affected. And I've gone through some darker times long before everything happened, and I think the only way I was able to pull through a lot of them is this belief that things could get better. Things are always going to get better if you push through and believe in yourself. And that's why I always write my books in a way that where even if it's the darkest, it's always before dawn. There's always going to be a little bit of hope in the end that you can actually change, that you can actually make a difference. And yeah, that's the most important thing I want everybody reading my books to know.
I love that because that's kind of a personal mantra of mine is to forgive me here, but put your big girl panties on and just power through, boss up and get it done. Because we're a lot stronger and a lot more capable than we think we are sometimes. And to see, that inspiration on the page and for young girls, especially these days, it's so tough growing
Yeah.
up. I mean, it's even harder now. It's so hard for me to even think that because when I was growing up, this was, I mean, like in the 90s. But it seemed like it was impossible some days, in high school and junior high and even college, and being trying to find your own way and who you are. And there were some times when things were seemed like I would just never get anywhere and I felt stuck, like you said. And so reading really helped me during that time. I actually worked at Barnes and Noble for the discount because I bought so many books. But reading absolutely helps to inspire people. And I love that the message behind yours is to never give up.
Even when you feel like you're at your lowest low. Like another thing that I do want people to know is that it's okay to, take a break, step back, give
Wow.
some time for yourself because you can't always be strong every day. Like pick your days, pick your battles, use the rest to replenish yourself, look after yourself, and it's not selfish to do that.
God, that's such great advice and some that I need to take more of. sometimes.
Yeah, like it shows in my characters, I guess, because they're not always brave. Like they make mistakes, and I give them leeway to make mistakes. They should be making mistakes because you can't be perfect all the time, and that's something that I feel more people should incorporate in that, should be something that more people should believe in themselves as well. You can't always be strong. It's all right to feel weak. It's all right to feel like the world is against you.
All right to
But
cry.
you know
To have a good cry every once in a while. I mean, come on.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
No, you see that in your characters that they have, they're realistic whenever you read them, even though it is even though it is fantasy and it's high fantasy. You see that they have their own issues to work through, and they're not infallible, like you say. So I think that that sets a really good, standard for people, or not standard, but a really good, what am I trying to say? A really good example of, not even the main female protagonist, not even the main protagonist. No one in the book is perfect. No one is above making mistakes. And I love that you allow that to happen, because it shows people that, even in perfect fantasy worlds, sometimes things happen. Like, right at the very beginning, I never meant to raise my brother from the dead. Oops. you know. So I like that. I really do.
Thank you.
What is one of the things that you would love for people here, for people everywhere, to know about you as an author and as a person? What's the one question that you keep getting asked that you just want to like tell people?
Well, there are two. Like the first one was something that I mentioned when I was talking with you earlier.
Yep.
People were asking how could you write so many books, especially during this time? Like, don't you feel overwhelmed? Don't you feel like, this is something that you like? Work shouldn't be the priority. You should be taking care of your mental health, and those questions are valid. And I say, people sort of handle problems in very different ways. So my definition of mental health will be completely different from your definition of mental health. And with mine, like the only one of the reasons why I try to latch on to writing is because it takes me away from a lot of the problems that I'm having. Like readers read books to like temporarily take themselves away from their problems. And some authors like me do the same thing. I write so I can immerse myself in another world of my own creation and temporarily sort of take myself out again temporarily, just so I can get some peace of mind for a few hours a day. And yeah, I am by nature sort of a workaholic anyway. And that's my way of coping. Like I have like issues where I hyperfixate on things a lot, and
Oh,
hyperfixating sort of helps me manage in a very weird way. It sort of helps me manage my day-to-day stuff. But yeah, like recently it does feel overwhelming. Like I do, like in my head I'm thinking, well, I wrote this book, and then I wrote this book, and then I wrote this book, and I feel like, okay, I've met my quota for the year, like 3 or 4 books for this year alone, and I feel like I can rest. But then I wasn't thinking in the long term. So now I'm getting slammed with so many revisions and so many edits by my agent and my editors at the same time. And that's the one that's making me a little. And so now I'm very serious now when I say, yeah, after I'm done with all these like deadlines that I
it's break
imposed
time.
on myself
Yeah.
completely by accident because I did not think things through. I will take a very much needed rest as well. So,
I don't blame you.
it, I mean, I like the idea of being busy. I like the idea that I'm doing a lot of things because it helps soothe my brain, and my brain functions that way. So, you know, again, your mental health looks different, and it varies between people. But
That's
I will
so
take a break.
wild. That's so wild because I feel the same. It's like I'm talking to a version of myself because I do the same thing. Hyperfixating on something actually takes my mind off of just baseline anxiety. As long as I have something that I can focus on, a project or a problem to solve, or and like you say, writing in and of itself is a form of therapy for authors because you're escaping into that world as you're writing the same way that readers are when they pick up your book and they delve into this beautiful kingdom, and flawed kingdom, and Taya's amazing journey. They're escaping, but as you were writing it, you were also in the process of escaping, walking alongside of Taya and Fox and going on this journey along with them. So, for some people, they would say, "Oh, wow, to write that much and to continuously write, that's got to be stressful," but not necessarily so, because we find comfort in that sort of that process.
And it gives you control. Like, you
Yes.
feel
Oh,
like there's a
yeah.
lot of things that
Right.
are out of your control nowadays,
Right.
so you focus on the things that you can. And what I can control is when and how I write. So, and I think in a way it also helps improve my writing, because when I'm immersing
Yeah.
myself in these worlds, I have to make it as realistic as possible as well,
Yeah.
because I want to fully immerse myself in them as well. So it helps me sort of figure out what do I need to add to this world to make things much more distinct, to make things much more believable, to make things much more interesting for readers down the road when I finally get the book out.
I love that. I love that. And what I stopped you before you got to the second question. Sorry, because
All right.
it was like so I was like, we are on the same wavelength here. Like we got the same mindset. It's crazy. Um, but what is the other thing that you constantly hear?
The second one is something that I get from a lot of other Filipino writers, because I live in the Philippines, but I'm published in the United States, and it really boggles local writers' minds here. Like, really, you're able to do that? Like, how are you able to go and find an agent, get a book deal in the United States, and get your books published there while you are living here in the United States? And I mean, I don't blame them for thinking that, because yeah, because it does feel like there's such a huge barrier. Even with the onset of emails and internet, there feels like there's such a huge barrier between writers in other countries and what can be published in the United States, especially when it's so very competitive and it's hard to get in some
Yeah.
at times. And there's also in some way this mentality we have here of, like, it's called colonial mentality, because we've been colonized, we've been invaded by three countries, like Spain for 300 years, the United States for like over 50 years, and Jap- Japan during World War II. So with each occupation, it sort of stripped away our pre-colonial history. Like, not a lot of us even know much of that pre-colonial history anymore, because all the colonizers sort of destroyed a lot of the important documents there, or got rid of the people who actually knew about those traditions, like oral traditions passed down. So we're sort of running around trying to find out what aspects of our Filipino identity we can still salvage from everything else, from our parts of history that we do know of. So I think it sort of instilled in us this mentality that, hey, we're not better than the United States. We're not better than Western culture. And yes, it. I mean, I understand that it's bad. I mean, obviously it's bad. But when you've had to deal with not really knowing what kind of identity you have, like I speak fluent English mainly because United States.
Right.
like
Right.
yeah, we were taught English, and in the process, um, the pre-colonial languages were almost lost. So it's been very hard, sort of trying to figure out our own way in the world. And part of that is thinking, well, I think I could be a writer, but I'm not good enough to even reach out and query in the first place, like look for an agent in the first place. And it sucks because a lot of people here have that mindset, like maybe I'm not good enough because everything feels so daunting.
And that
And
stops a lot of people from even trying. And you're a great
exactly.
inspiration to, I'm sure, a lot of other authors out there who aspire to be traditionally published, and they say, hey, Rancho is enormously popular and famous in the US for writing the books that she does. If she can do it, then there's a possibility that I could as well, or at least don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. Guys.
The funny thing is when I'm very new to TikTok, like I started maybe over a week ago. I'm sure you know. And one of the first kinds of engagement that I received there were so many Filipino readers, so many Filipinos who also wanna write,
Right.
coming into my mentions and going, I didn't know you were Filipino. I know about the Bone Witch. I read the Bone Witch. I read your other books, but I didn't know you were Filipino, much less a Filipino living in the Philippines. And I'm like, what? It's in every social media that I have. It's in the biographies of all my books. But again, there's that colonial mentality. Like you don't really, because you don't think that it's possible, you don't actively look for it. You just, read the
Sure.
books, then you enjoy. And so that felt to me, I think, a bit disheartening,
Mm.
because I do want people to reach for the stars and do the same thing I did, which was to go and find their agents, find an agent who will love their work, find a publishing company that would offer them a book deal. And that can't happen if they don't think that it can
Right.
happen for
Yeah.
them. So,
Yeah. And
I've been mostly on TikTok. Like I came onto TikTok for like shits and giggles at the onset, but now I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe I should also use this as an
yeah.
opportunity to help educate people, or at least inform them about what is possible for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I would hate to think, I mean, guys, just think. I mean, anybody who's read this series, just think if, after one or two rejections, or if even, Ren didn't even try and say, because I live in the Philippines, there's no way in hell that I'm going to get an agent in the US. These books wouldn't exist. You guys would never have, I mean, if she never tried, then these would have been something that you wouldn't have gotten to read. Everyone has a story, and some amazing, amazing stories. And I think that, telling yourself that you can't over and over again, it keeps those amazing stories from getting out there. And I'm so very glad that you did, because and I'm so very glad that there was an agent who recognized and saw such amazing writing and said, I have to have this book.
Thank you. I've actually been with my agent for the whole duration of my writing journey. So that was since 2014. So I've been with her for like 8 years now,
8 years,
and that's
yeah.
amazing. Her name's Rebecca Podos, and she's from the Helen Reese Agency. So if anybody wants to try, their feel free to query her whenever you'd like. And rejections are a part of the process.
Mm,
If a published writer tells you that, hey, I've never been rejected, I got my book deal instantly, then you must be a TV writer, because that is a lie. Only TV writers would write about agents getting a book deal
right,
so easily and getting
right,
published a month later and getting their full royalties, full advance and royalties in one go. So,
right.
I've been rejected. I've been rejected tons of times. But the thing I told myself is, this just means that this particular agent was not for me. I'm going
For
to go
me,
out and look for the agent that is for me. And
right.
I think that should be what everybody else should be doing as well when they go look for their own agents. Or
And have
if you feel like, or you feel like you're more suited for like indie or self-publishing, because I believe that indie and self-publishing is where the most creative stories and the most creative books are in, and they're like, they're the reasons why they might not be published is because for their so-called market value, which I think is kind of BS, because most of the time publishers don't even know which of their books are going to be the bestsellers. It's really just a guessing game at this point, and they tend not to put a lot of their investments in something that feels so out of the box,
risky.
which is why,
Yeah.
yes, risky, which is why a lot of creative writers gravitate towards self-publishing or indie publishing as well, because they think that, hey, I can manage my own time, I can manage who gets these books, how I market these books, and I'll reach my audience that way. So, there is really no wrong or right answer. If you want to go the traditional route, then feel free. But if you want to go for the self-publishing or the indie publishing route, there's nothing wrong in that either. It's really up to your preference.
Yeah, and there are so many options now that you can do. But like you said, don't give up, guys. I mean, it's not an easy process. A lot of people don't even finish writing their manuscript because self-doubt creeps in, and they say, I can't, this is not going to stack up to, and that's whenever you get an editor or a critique partner or someone that can help you along that creative road and suggest things. Having friends in the writing circle and the writing community, and for you, your agent, where you can bounce ideas off of people and say, hey, I'm stuck, I need some help, and then go back and forth with somebody that you trust and you respect their writing too, can be really helpful. But just don't stop. I
I
think we're both
keep
big
keep
proponents.
going at it, and you'll
Yeah,
get there. You'll
yeah.
always get there. The whole obstacle towards getting there is you thinking you're never gonna get there.
That is a huge obstacle. Yeah. I mean, if you put it in your own mind that you're not going to be able to do something, like I'm not going to be able to get up and make coffee this morning, then you're going to psych yourself out to the point where you're like, I really don't feel like getting up and making coffee this morning. So you almost have to, like, be your own cheerleader as an author sometimes,
Right, right.
you know? So, some amazing inspirational words today, from Wrench Pecco. Guys, I mean, you probably already have the books. And if you don't, I mean, what are you waiting for, really, quite honestly? You're missing out. And definitely check out the newest book that she has coming on October the 5th, Wicked as You Wish. And then I am so super excited to see. I'm going to be like refreshing every week, like constantly checking your Amazon page every week. The minute that book comes out for pre-order in next year, that thing is going in my cart. It's already pre-ordered. It's a done deal.
Thank you so
Because
much. I really appreciate that.
No, I am definitely a fan, and the writing is amazing. The different layers of storytelling that you incorporate into your books is fantastic. And if you're looking for an amazing strong female lead in Taya, and an awesome story to go along on a journey of, I mean, just it's I if you can't tell, I love the book. And I'm only on the first one. So I can't wait to see what's in store for the rest of the series.
Well, thank you so much for your support.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for coming on the show today. I'm going to let you have the rest of your evening back because we're so on such different time schedules here. It's night. It's night there and it's morning here. So thank you again, everyone. Check out everything that Ren has available right now and what she has coming soon. You won't be sorry, I promise you. And stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you again soon. Thank you again, Ren, so much. It's been a joy and an honor.
Thank you for having me.